What's going on, everybody? We're back with another podcast this week. We're sitting here with one of the guys in the waterfowl crew, Brandon. Brandon's been on, I think, 2, 3 podcasts?
3 or 4.
I was going to say, you've been on a few of them. I mean, we usually have 10 guys in the room, so it's hard to...
Yeah, I think 3 or 4, one up when we were up north, and then 2 in here.
Yeah, so this is the 4th one here. But we got a special guest today. We got Captain Marc Spagnola with Maryland Waterfowl Guide Service and Dusk to Dawn boat fishing. Mark, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you spending the time talking to us tonight. How are you doing, man?
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Like doing these kind of things. Just reaches different people that I don't normally can get to. So this is a great way to have somebody new hear me.
Yeah, it's we talked about it a little bit. For us talking about anything saltwater, it's we have no idea anything about it unless we're obviously going somewhere. But it's all freshwater here, and some of the pictures that you have on social media with the sea duck or bow fishing, it's our buddy mutual friend Brad brought it up to me not too long ago and started checking your page out and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I got to talk to this guy.
Yeah, no, Brad's been out waterfowl hunting. They came out during like a nor'easter 2 years ago. Told them not to come. They still came. We made something out of it. We didn't hunt the 3rd day of their trip, and I sent them with another outfitter that had some land issues or land options because the water options were just not going to work out that time they came out. And he did say he was coming back out this summer possibly to shoot some stingrays.
That'd be awesome, man. You want to just kind of break down for everybody listening and the people that don't know you or anything on the Maryland side of the world, just who you are and kind of what everything you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a full-time guide. I guide year-round. My summer times are a little bit busier than the winter, but I'd be fishing tonight if the wind wouldn't be blowing. So we start my river trips right around the last week of March, and I run them all the way through September, October, depending on the weather. Right around mid to end of May, I'll start running stingray trips in with, as I'm doing the river trips at night. The rays I can do day or night. So, and that keeps me pretty busy, all the way up to the end of August, beginning of September. Weather permitting, September can really be an awesome month. We get a lot of cooler nights, but warm, good days, and the water's still good and warm. So those fish, tend to hang out until the nights really get cold and start dropping the water temperature. And then once that happens, fish will start to go deep or move out. The river fish kind of stay all the way through October, but our saltwater side, the bays and the tributaries to that, they'll cool down a little bit quicker, and then the rays will move out. So that's kind of what I do from March till October. And to be honest with you, by the end of August, I'm ready to put the boats away and start, hunting. But again, I'll roll all the way through September, maybe even in October, depending on the weather. Once November gets around, our duck season starts. I guide for sea ducks on the Chesapeake Bay and in the ocean, out of Ocean City, Maryland. I generally stick to sea ducks. They're pretty much, once they're here, they're here. They don't leave until after the season. They normally get here about mid-October and run to the end of January. We have 3 different splits. Normally our first split, we get a week in October, normally the 3rd week. That's a little early for me. I've definitely done those weeks, but it could be hit or miss as far as the numbers that we see. So I generally don't take a whole lot that week. Then our second split comes in. Basically, you go from Black Friday and count back 2 weeks. So this year, with Thanksgiving being the last almost the third week of November. It's going to start later. So go to Black Friday, go back 2 weeks. That's our second split. And then our third split comes in mid-December, like right around the 15th, 16th. And then we'll run all the way to the last day of January. So those are our three splits. And I'm normally pretty busy with running sea duck hunts during those times.
Now, what kind of birds are you guys shooting during season?
So primarily on the ocean, we're going to shoot your surf scoter, which is all black, has a white patch on the back of its head, the back of its neck, and on the front of like the forehead area with a yellow, black, white, reddish, orangish bill. That is your surf scoter. And then our common scoter is all black with like a bright yellowish orange bill. Occasionally we'll see the white wing. It's not something that I can guarantee people, but occasionally I shoot about 5 a season with those, maybe. And then on the Chesapeake Bay, during the third split, we shoot the old squall, which are pretty much your white bird, real long tail, peaches kind of grayish face on the males. They're a beautiful bird, got like gray and whites and a little bit of black in them. They're awesome. They normally start to show up right around Thanksgiving, but if somebody calls and says, "Hey, I really need an old squall," I tell people let's shoot for that third split.
That's it seems like we've been getting a lot of even sea ducks around us. We're right off of Lake Erie here. Lake St. Clair for us, it's been an absolute killer for what, Brayden, in the last 3-4 years, maybe even longer than that for old squaw?
Yeah, probably the last 5 years is really when I've heard about people killing.
It hasn't been that
a
long
decent
ago.
Number of them.
Right. Is it true what they say about them being like one of the dumbest species of waterfowl out there?
So I want to say it's kind of hard when we say dumb, like, do they decoy to just about anything? Yeah. They put on a good show.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, they decoy well. There's days out there where they don't want nothing to do with us until we adjust some things or try something different. They do, these birds, they get shot at every day. It's like the gauntlet, just flying down the coast and flying up the bay. These birds are constantly shot at. They changed the limit, I think, 2 seasons ago now. And, I'm kind of glad they did because it's a resource. But as far as being dumb, they decoy very good. And that's why I choose to go after them. I get calls all the time. Hey, I need a redhead. Hey, I need a canvasback. I don't have the real estate or the shoreline property to properly go after those birds. And then, we have to have those birds. And normally in the areas that we have, it's normally the last 2 to 3 weeks where those birds show up, decent. It just doesn't get cold like it used to get cold where, everybody had those birds, for a longer period of time.
We've been dealing with that a lot lately with the cold weather. Like just for example, our push this year, we do a lot of field hunting where we're at, and we didn't get our first push till what? Late October maybe this year, our first push, Brandon?
Probably somewhere around there. We really didn't
get a giant push
really
at all.
A good push at all this whole season because there was no snow in Canada at the end of December still.
Right. I was going to say the Dakotas, I think, were all open. And obviously over here, it's a big factor for us. And that's the thing, too, we're kind of touching back on the old squaw. I feel like, what is it, the long-tailed duck now, what people are calling it?
If you want to be politically correct, long tail.
Right. It's almost like there's so many divers where people assume that they're quote-unquote dumb birds, but it's like, are they really dumb because they're moving all over the place? The miles that they fly down it's like migrating geese. You can sit out in the middle of the field and not have any hide at all. Well, they've never been there before. So if you got some good calling or a good setup or location, how do they know what's supposed to be there and what's not?
Right.
Well, and all those diver ducks, I mean, they're spending probably 90% of their life miles offshore, not really coming into contact with a whole lot.
Right.
So they see something and it looks like a bunch of, their friends, and they're like, oh, hell, let's go check it out. And then next thing you know, there's 3 or 4 guys popping up and blasting at them.
Right.
But for the most part, they're not really on land unless they're, sitting on a nest.
Yeah, no, and on the shoreline, we'll see groups of divers, but I mean, they do fly, the divers do fly over land. I mean, the amount of birds that go through the Chesapeake Bay and don't really come down the coast, they do come across, land. They just choose to be in the water, on those big tributaries.
Well,
like we'll get rafts of thousands and thousands of redheads in certain areas and they'll hold there until they're bothered, and then they'll get up and move out. They're not like a puddle duck or a black duck or a puddle duck,
Canada goose, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Just an inland bird wise.
Yeah, they're not going to your local park and landing in the grass and hanging out for days on end.
No, unless they've done it when they were younger and found refuge. I live in a pretty big housing community, and we got 2 ponds out front. And if it gets super cold and we get a big push of birds, every now and then we'll see some widgeon and some canvasback on this pond, and they're always cool to see. But yeah, I mean, we do get a variety. Maryland that Chesapeake Bay is a really cool place to be. It's a really cool experience if you got the right, the right outfitter and the right guide. There's a ton of people, a ton of guides on the Chesapeake Bay, and you can shoot just about any species that, we have to offer. But again, it's just, we have to have the birds. If the birds come down and we got the weather, it's a great day.
And just the history alone with the Chesapeake Bay, I mean, you hear so much about that, or at least we do over here. It's like a dream location for most people to go visit over there with the waterfowl that you guys have.
Yeah.
Did you grow up out there on the Chesapeake?
I did not.
Okay.
No, I did not. I grew up in York, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. So what kind of like setup, decoys, boat? I mean, what kind of setup are you guys usually running? Because here for our divers and stuff, and Brandon's done it more than I have, but from what I see anyway, a lot of guys are just hitting rock walls and tucking the boat away.
Hell, a lot islands. Of guys aren't even. I mean, if you go out to like, I'll drop the name because I don't really go there anymore. But if you go out to like Woodtick, as soon as you get out of the launch and into open water for the next 500-600 yards, you'll just see a random boat 100 yards off the shore, anchors off both sides, and they're just sitting in the boat with no blind or nothing.
That's true.
Now you got the guys that are a little more into it, and they're going out towards like the lighthouse and stuff, and they're using layout boats and stuff like that. But a lot of guys just anchor their boat up and sit there, and but around here we're content to shoot buffies and
right.
stuff like that. These guys are out there just trying to get some birds versus when you're going out guiding people that are out there for specific birds, there's obviously they got to do a lot more. But
do you guys use a lot of layouts or anything?
Do we use a lot of what?
Layout boats.
So I have a layout boat. I haven't used it in 3 seasons. I have a 2-man layout addiction ghost, and I haven't used it but maybe a handful of times. I actually had a group. It was a father brought his twin boys and one of their buddies up from Kentucky this year, and they legit wanted a layout experience. The first 2 days we had weather that I did not want to put them in a layout boat. The third day we had the weather to put them in a layout boat, and they had so much fun in the big boat, everybody being together. The third day I said, we did this. I took them in the ocean. They had a great shoot. Took them to the Chesapeake Bay. It was rough, and they had a good shoot. The boys could shoot. The third day I left it up to them with what they wanted to do, what they wanted to, go after. And they said, man, let's just go back on the ocean in the big boat. So that's what we did. I didn't even put the layout boat in the water again this year. I run a 24-foot duck water. It's kind of a custom blind setup. It's just comes up, covers the faces off the boat. And I run normally three dozen decoys, 2 sets or 3 sets of 12.
So are you running are you running long lines?
Yeah, yep. I'm anywhere from 15 foot in the ocean all the way to 65 feet, depending on the line that I'm, sometimes they bump in, sometimes they bump out. So those are the depths that I'm covering. If I hunt the Chesapeake Bay, I'm normally a little bit shallower. I'm in around the 10 to 18 foot. Mm-hmm. And running the same amount of lines. Sometimes I'll run maybe 4 or 5 dozen over on the Chesapeake, just because I normally run 3 sets of surf and common scoter decoys, and then I'll run 2 sets of your whole squall decoy lines, just to give that variety over there. We don't see any old squall hardly on the ocean. Just a handful throughout the season. I'm not sure why, but we just do not see them. And if we got to hit the Chesapeake Bay, for whatever reason, that is where they're at.
That's kind of weird. I mean, for growing up around here, we always were told that it's just sea duck. It's a sea duck. And I forget who told me a while back, it's like a food change where the Great Lakes are getting more and more a certain food, like a diet for these sea ducks, and that's why we're seeing more. Because, there's guys shooting harlequins and everything. Well, not a lot, obviously, but, scoters and
well, hell, was it 2 years ago that guy shot that king eider on Sinclair?
Oh, man.
2 or 3 years ago, he shot a absolute beautiful hen.
Oh, yeah.
King eider. It wasn't a stud drake or anything, but, it was still a cool duck to shoot off Lake Sinclair.
King's a pretty cool bird. We've shot probably, I want to say 3-4 seasons ago. It was cold. We had a handful of common eiders in the area. We scratched off a couple immature drakes and some hens, and then one client. We did have a really good mature common eider come in, and we got it on the boat, and it was. But since that, I'm not seeing any come down through.
What is like the craziest thing that you've seen out there? You got to see, or you had to have seen with the time that, in the years that you've put into this. You've had to have seen some crazy stuff out there.
I've seen wood ducks out there. One of the coolest things that I've seen, and it was still a sea duck, but last season we went out. It was a rough day. I had 3 shooters. They got their birds kind of quick. It was super rough. I ended up hitting something with the prop going out in the morning, bent the prop all up. I got back in after we got our birds. Like I said, we had 3 guys. They shot them quick. And how I do it is, once we get a bird down, I come off the volleyball with my anchor. I come off of it. I go grab the bird. The guy up front normally has the net. He dips the bird, brings it in. We put it on the shelf, and we go back to getting hooked up and finishing out the hunt. So the guys, I never put the bird in my hand. The guy that dips the front, he gets it, grabs it. We put it on a shelf. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it was super rough that day. We get back in. I had a lot of damage. Ended up losing the second day of their hunt because I bent the shaft, and ended up being a kind of a mess. My mind just wasn't there after I hit that going out through. I was kind of focused on how I'm going to get stuff fixed. And as you're a guide, like, that's the kind of things you think about when you're out there. You get kind of preoccupied with the task at hand.
Right.
But we get in, I start in repair mode and start tearing stuff apart. And I get a text from my guy that was on the boat, sent me a picture of a scooter with a band on it. I'm like, man, that's cool. And he was an avid waterfowler. I said, hey, when did you get that? He's like, that was today. I said, are you kidding me? And he's like, no. So we had, and that was probably like my fourth band on scooters. And I'm like, well, that's great. I said, congratulations. But we didn't even take notice to it on the boat. Like I said, it was really rough. I had the whole prop thing going through my mind, and it just wasn't something that was on my mind to look for.
That's one thing even for us with Canada geese. I mean, we shoot, we're, weekend warriors up here, just, buddy and family hunts and stuff. And we probably put down, 650, 700 birds close a year, I'd say, right around that mark.
Yeah.
And, for the weekend warrior guys, that's I feel like a lot anyway. And, we shoot maybe 1 to 3 bands a year, it seems like. And I'm just waiting for the day for one of the guys to just throw a goose or a duck in the pile, and then, later while cleaning it, finally see that band, just because we're so used to not seeing bands.
Right.
I guess we might as well be sea duck hunters.
Yeah.
At that point.
Well, where I was going with this too, so he called it in, and he immediately got a call back from the biologist. This bird ended up being 17 years old.
Holy shit.
The oldest recorded bird at the time was 19.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool. That was really cool information. I have to look up. I can't think. It was in Canada. I think Quebec was where it was banded. I want to say Utica, but don't quote me on that because I'm not looking at that information right now. So that was kind of cool. Fast forward to this year, was out with a group of guys on the ocean. I think I had 4 or 5 of them in the boat. It was 4 from Ohio. First day was too rough to get in the ocean. Went to the bay. They shot their old squalls and some surf scooters. And a good group of guys had them on day 2. Made it to the ocean. Super rough, but we ended up going out. We had a really good shoot again. Again, a bunch of birds come in, drop a few. Guy up front dips a bunch, put it on the shelf. We're sitting there like a couple minutes after they put them on the shelf, and one of the guys was like, that bird's got a band on it. I'm like, you serious? And I was like, let's see it. So he gets it out, and this is a stud surf scooter, just big, beautiful. They didn't blow it up. I mean, it looked great. So I was like, man. So now, out of 4 guys, 3 guys wanted his bird. Then one of the guys backed off. Then it was down to 2 guys arguing over it. So the guy that backed off said, hey, we'll put a spinning app on the phone. Put a spinning app on the phone. They put their names in the app, spun it. One of the guys won it. I said, okay, and I'll call it in. I just got done telling them like how old this bird, was the following year. Mm-hmm. So gets the information back, really quick. This bird ended up being 20 years old.
Holy shit.
It is the oldest recorded surf scooter to be recorded. So this is the oldest bird that they have in history.
Now, on a band that's 20 years old, I mean, is there anything to even read on that? I mean, what's the wear on that kind of band?
So they use stainless on those.
Oh, that's right.
So it wasn't aluminum, so it didn't wear. Same with that 17-year-old bird. It looked kind of brand new. So with that being said, like that to me is one of the coolest things that I've seen, out there.
So are you guys,
to have that kind of, I'm not that guy of bragging, but to have that kind of bragging rights to a 20-year-old surf scooter, with a band on it, from where that was banded to our spot was 1,600 miles one way. So in 20 years, how many times and how many miles do you think that bird, put on?
I just was talking to somebody about that the other day, about just that, like, there's guys that go out and they shoot our local geese, and they have a whole lanyard full of goose bands, and if that's what makes you happy, that's what makes you happy. Don't get me wrong, but I'd rather shoot 2 bands a year that are 1,800 miles away, that are 10, 12 years old, and you can barely see the writing on it with an old BB mark in it or whatever it may be, and just to think about the history behind all of that, like what that bird's seen, where it's been. It's so crazy to really think in depth with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's, when we had that 17-year-old, I thought that was saying something. And like I said, that was my 5th or 6th banded surf skater. My logo actually even has a picture of my newer logo for the shirts and stuff like that. Even has a picture of a banded bird on, so it's pretty cool. And to get the 20-year-old this year was even, icing kind of on the cake. I'm not a band guy either. I don't like. I have I only have 1 or 2 anyways, but it's just kind of cool, to experience that kind of something on the boat.
I feel like if you're going out there for just a band, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And, we'll get into that social media standpoint here shortly, but you had a question, Brandon?
Yeah. What's, like, out of all the bands you guys have shot, obviously aside from those 2, like, what's the average age on those birds?
So I don't know what they normally live to. I mean, obviously,
just
20 years old, 17-year-old, they get pretty old. It does take a sea duck, like those scoters, 3 years to get full plumage. And once they get it, they don't lose it. They don't mold out like other ducks.
Right. I'm talking like, so say over the last 10 years, you guys have, you've had 50 bands pulled into your boat. What's the average age that you're seeing on any sea duck in general?
I've not had 50. I've only had, this is probably my 5th or 6th band on a surf scooter.
And you haven't shot any other bands on any sea ducks then, is what I'm...
No.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
No,
Okay. So this is only your 5th or 6th band in general.
What's that?
This is only the 5th or 6th one, or you've only had 5 or 6 the whole time you've been guiding.
Correct.
Okay.
On the sea ducks. Yeah, I've only shot 5 or 6. This is like the 6th. This 20-year-old bird, I think, is like the 6th banded surf scooter that I've had on the boat.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, around here, I feel like average age is about 2 to 3. I mean, really, we don't see average. A lot that are much older than that.
I think 2 years ago we shot some older bands that were
on geese,
that 8 to 10. But
yeah,
I mean, well, hell, we've shot in the last 3 years probably close to 1,000 mallards, and we've shot 2 bands out of those.
Yeah,
and mine
was
from Wisconsin,
6 or 7 years old from Wisconsin, and yours was 2 or 3 years old from.
Mine was born earlier, but mine was the same year. It still had like milk on its lips, I think, because it was 30 miles away from where we shot it.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out, like, I mean, obviously, if one was 17 years old and the other one was 20 years old, it seems like those the sea ducks actually get to see more of a full life versus our puddlers and Canadians.
Right.
Are you seeing like like the consistency of where they're coming from? Like, I know you don't have a lot of bands, but like just the consistency of where your birds are coming from out of those handful of bands. Are they all kind of the same spot?
The last 2 that I've gotten on the boat, they have, I think, came from, that, and I'm trying to look that information up as we're talking, because I kind of feel like we need to, it's in Quebec, I'm pretty sure, and I want to say it's Utica, but I'm not, until I see this, I'm not going to be able to. Once I get the information on the band itself, right, I'll be able to tell you. But I'm not.
Go ahead. The furthest band I think I personally shot anyway, I was in, I think it was the Finger Lakes when I shot my bird from Cincinnati. But like the birds around us, I mean, they're coming straight out of Hudson Bay.
Yeah, I think the farthest one we've got was
1,800 miles, I think it was.
Somewhere between 12 and 1,800.
But I mean, that's all. A lot of those birds are, you know, the same flight path year after year. It's either one out of the 3 banding areas on the Hudson Bay. Not saying the Hudson Bay only bands the 3 areas, but you know, Canadian geese and you know, we sometimes get the blues and the snows, and I think last year we got a couple specks, but you know, depending on how strong the east or west winds are, I mean, we don't really get much crazy location from anything out of the Wisconsin bird. But
yeah, but that's, I mean,
so this one was Akalak. It's Aklaktalak Island. Akalactic Island. Okay. It's out of Newfoundland, Labrador, Canada. So that's where this one was hatched in 2003 or earlier. It was a male, and the date was 8/12 of 2004. So that was that 20-year-old bird.
That's nuts.
That is insane.
Yeah. So cool. He was a stud, and he was, you know, pretty. It was just a cool bird.
It's just cool for us to even hear about like locations like that, because obviously we don't get like those kind of birds, and 2 even locations.
Well, I feel like every time we look a band up and it's from Canada,
like I said,
probably 95% of the time you can't even pronounce the damn name of where the hell this thing is banded.
No kidding.
It's always something crazy like that.
It's an Indian preserve, or you know, whatever it is. Yeah. You guys get a lot of, like, do you guys ever see brant or anything out there?
Yeah, I used to do a handful, not many, but a handful of hunts. And I hunt the Virginia-Maryland line, and I normally went towards the Virginia side just because I can move around a little bit more freely. We do have brant that come in. This year, they went from a 2-bird limit to a 1-bird limit, and I did not run any trips. I kind of tried to talk guys out of it just because it was a 1-bird limit. And you know, I charged $1,200 for the boat for 4 people. So, you know, to go out there and try and shoot 1 bird, you know, for that kind of money. Obviously, if somebody needed one, I tried to do like a combo hunt where we do some sea ducking in the morning and then swap out around 11 o'clock and switch all my gear and decoys and then go target that. But we ended up not really doing that at all this year. I mean, it didn't bother me because it's just a lot of work to go through to try and shoot 1 bird a person.
I got a buddy that hunts a lot of inland in Maryland, and even for him for a while, it was, I think he posted a picture a couple of years ago, and he had a picture of like 6 birds on there on the bed of his truck or whatever it was, and he was like, limited out, 6-man limit this morning, and I'm like counting the birds, I'm like double and triple counting just to make sure that I'm counting it right, and I'm like, that's insane that you guys are only allowed 1 like goose in general. Like, I couldn't imagine that.
Well, isn't that the hunt he went on and shot that double-banded backpack tracker brant?
Who's that? Oh, no, different guy. Different guy. Yeah, different guy.
Yeah, they do a lot of banding on the brants, and New Jersey, Long Island, you know, those states hold a lot more brant as far as the numbers over the winter. Like, they come down into that area. We do get a fair amount. The last 2 years when it's been warm, we've had a lot of the same birds. I call them stale birds. So it just kind of, it's hard to hunt something that's been shot at, you know, day in, day out in certain areas. So
now, are those nesting birds there? Or are they just kind of early flight birds in and just hang out in one location?
No, they get here like normal time, but they're the one. We're not really getting big pushes of other birds to come in.
I gotcha. Now, a lot of your clients, though, I mean, are they going for the 41? I mean, it seems like a lot of your guys are going for the stud birds on the list. You got to deal with.
I get occasionally, yeah. I get some that are chasing that. You know, I get people that just want to have a good shoot and have fun with their buddies and shoot the shit with each other and pull the trigger. I also get some guys that them boys from Kentucky, like, they came up because this was like bucket list bird and a bucket list hunt for them. So it was actually cool because we had 3 solid days and the dad's like, man, I've never experienced like 3 great days of hunting like this. He's like, this has been, you know, something that I did not expect to to experience. So he said it was a good trip for him. He was very happy.
I mean, it's got to be such an amazing thing too, especially with the guys that aren't used to having hunts, one like that, and the just location in general, whether it be in the Chesapeake or the big water. I mean, and just, you know, we don't travel a lot. We kind of stick to our roots, I guess you want to say, and inviting people, friends or family or whatever, to come out and experience the hunts that we have, and just like yourself, it's such a gratifying thing to see the smiles and to be able to put someone in a situation where, you know, they're not used to having success like that.
Right.
Kind of going to bounce it over here to the other side of your outfitter, with the Dusk to Dawn bow fishing. Since Brandon's kind of big into it, he'll probably have a handful of questions. You want to kind of just talk about your setup with that, like with the bow fishing side of things?
Yeah. So what we target on the Eastern Shore here, I do river trips where it's kind of in the brackish water. It's tributaries to the Chesapeake Bay. So it is tidal, goes up and down every 6 hours. And that has a factor on when I fish, when I don't fish. The species that I fish on the river, they consist of your carp, your blue cats, your gar, and, you know, snakeheads. That's the new craze. Everybody wants snakeheads, and, you know, they've become very, very popular because of the fact that they're such good eating, but they're an invasive species. So the state and everybody else wants them out of there.
So do you guys have true snakeheads there, or are they actually the dogfish?
No, I think I'm not sure what the dogfish is, but we have a northern snakehead that originated from the China area. They came over here as pets. People left them loose. They reproduced very, very quickly.
Yeah.
It started out in like one pond area in Maryland. I don't know what year the first one was discovered. And I think by that time they were already all over the place, and they just keep spreading and spreading. They are a cool fish. They, like I said, they're very good eating. I sell them commercially. If I, you know, get enough or I don't have a charter, I'll go out and shoot them myself and then sell them. But those are the species that we target over here. The stingrays, they're on the Chesapeake bays and my coastal bays, and we normally shoot your southern rays, your cownose rays, your Atlantic rays, and butterfly rays.
I don't even know there was that many rays out there.
Yeah, there's
a lot more than that, but those are the ones that we normally see.
The cownose ray is a really common target for bow fishing.
I know my dad ray, my grandpa ray, and just a stingray that got Steve Irwin, and that's about the only rays that I know. That's about
right.
it.
Yeah, see, here we get bowfin, or some people refer to them as a dogfish, which is very similar to the snakehead, nowhere near as aggressive, and the I guess color pattern is nowhere close.
I caught one last year. It was dang near glow in the dark green. You ever seen one like that?
Oh yeah, when they get when it's mating season, those things are.
Yeah.
I mean, they are a beautiful fish.
Well,
they light up.
Mine was weird. It was like a neon, like highlighter green.
That's because he was trying to get his groove on.
I guess so.
Those eat pretty good too, and I don't know about the snakehead, but the bowfin, you got to eat them like within hours of killing them, otherwise the meat turns to mush.
Oh yeah, I was from PA and we couldn't shoot them there. We had them in one or two lakes, so we just never messed with them. Down on the Maryland side in the Delaware, I actually, you know, bow fish and licensed in Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. I mean, I can be in Delaware in less than 10, 15 minutes. Virginia waters, less than 40 minutes. So I kind of bounce around where I need to go. My setup, I run 2 different boats. I custom built a tri-tune boat, which is absolutely a Cadillac of a boat. It's a 24 by 8 tri-tune with a 200 on the back. And that's what I use to stingray shoot. And it's absolutely a badass rig that I built, me and my welder. So pretty proud of that. My second boat is a 26-foot Luma Rider custom bow fishing boat that is equipped with a 200 horse Suzuki on it, and then I have a 25 horse Gator Tail, as my kicker, and that's what I use for the river trips and occasionally the raid trips. There's some days where I run 2 to 3 trips a day back to back. So if I'm running the river at night, I'll grab just the 26. If I'm on the Chesapeake Bay side, I'll run the 26 over there and then do my rivers at night, and then come home. If I'm on the coastal side, I generally just use the tri-tune because it eats up all the waves and the rough water, and rides real smooth. So it just works out great.
For even going back to even the waterfowl hunting and the bow fishing, I mean, you usually have like a second mate on the boat?
I just started using help this past season. I'm old. I'm getting tired. I used to go and not get tired. I'm 49 years old. I tend to get tired now. So when you're running 2 to 3 trips a day, I'm just trying to get somebody to help me out that eventually I can turn them loose on their own. So, I don't have to work 3 different trips back to back, every chance that I can.
And that's got to be a hard part too, even just finding the right guy for that has the passion that, get the right attitude.
I burned out 2 of them at the beginning of last summer. So I'm on my third one, and I told them it's a lot of long hours. They don't have to do every trip that I do, but they try to stick in there, and it just doesn't work out. So my third one, I started him out part-time, so he didn't go on every one, just so I didn't lose him.
I'm always willing to relocate.
Bring it.
That's
I've got family in Luray, Virginia, right on the Shenandoah River, so I'm familiar with the general area. We used to go down there all the time when I was younger.
Gotcha.
That's I don't know, the guiding life in general. People think it's so easy to do, whether you are bow fishing or on the water for waterfowl or even in the fields. People just think it's so easy to do, and they have no idea what it takes to actually get the job done day in and day out.
Oh, it's so stressful. I'll get, if it was a busy time, like if we were in the middle of my season right now. So today's what, Thursday? No, what's today?
Monday.
Yeah,
Monday.
I wish it was Thursday.
Yes. So Monday, my train of thought was, today's Monday. Guys that are going out with me Thursday and Friday, they'll be texting, "Hey, what's it looking like, for Thursday and Friday?" So now I'm a weatherman, so I have to predict what Thursday and Friday is going to be like for this client to tell them, hey. But I always tell people, like, the weather changes down here by the hour. I don't call trips, until last minute, because if I can fish, I'm going to fish. If it's going to be a washout, I'll tell you. But basically all I do is screenshot the forecast for that day, send it to them, and touch base within, 24 to 48 hours with me. And that's kind of, where I'm at with it. Because I've canceled so many trips over the years and have lost money because if I tell, just like you guys are probably, Michigan, you guys are probably, I don't know, at least 8 to 10 hours, probably longer than that.
I mean, for our waters in general, where we're located at anyway, Lake Erie is, I want to say, don't quote me, but the shallowest out of the Great Lakes. So our, for our guys that are hunting on the water, or we'll spend all summer out on the water, whether it's walleye fishing or, you know, it's especially during the springtime, we're either chasing walleye or chasing turkeys, but all it takes is 10 minutes and that weather can flip so fast, whether it be 8-foot rollers or wind blowing you sideways. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, and it can happen like that down here. Normally that June last year blew for straight 3 weeks, northeast for 3 weeks. It was just a really bad June. That was one of the worst Junes that we've had. But normally, you know, I get my trips out and we make it happen. But it is definitely a stressful job. You know, I mean, I call myself an expectation manager because you've never really had a lot of experience, Kyle, with bow fishing,
right?
But you know, Brad did.
For me, I think the first I've gone out one time.
Brandon
I think
did.
I lost 3 arrows, and that was it for me. I didn't want to pay for any more arrows that my buddy made me pay for.
Yeah, but Brandon's expectations going on a trip to pay somebody is going to be different from yours. So,
right.
Like when people call, I got to kind of figure out what they're looking for, what kind of a time frame they should come down to see what they want, and then kind of pick out when would be best for them to experience what they want to experience. So there's a lot more to it than just, you know, getting and going.
Well, I mean, especially species.
The overhead, like I do okay money-wise, but the overhead that I have is so astronomical anymore. I just ordered a brand new 2024 200 Suzuki that's $17,000, and it's just, you know, my other one's a 2017. So it's just one of those things where you got to keep, if you're using it every day, you got to keep it up. And the maintenance of that program that I have is just, I was a mechanic since high school. So I'm real anal about my equipment. If you check my pictures out, check my videos out, like my boat is always clean. It's always neat. You don't see stuff hanging. You don't see stuff broken. Like I'm just very, very particular about my equipment.
I mean, even aside from the mechanical aspect of it, taking bows out multiple times a day, every day for months on end, I mean, there's a lot of overhead just in making sure your equipment is functional when you get guys out there.
Yeah, I have spares for the spares. I mean, it's just I have extra equipment because I don't have time to fix it, so I just want to grab and go. If something breaks, I'll fix it on a day that it's raining or blowing. But that's why I always tell people I got spares for spares.
So what are you running for your bows?
So a couple of years ago, I switched over to the Vader Sabres.
Okay.
Prior to that, I had a really good relationship with Fin Finder. They were in my backyard back in Pennsylvania. I had like a personal relationship with some of them guys. They took care of me. I've used just about every wheel bow that you could possibly use. The original Poseidon bows were absolutely a great bow fishing bow. Mm-hmm. And then they discontinued them and they went to the FJ31 or whatever. And they weren't holding up in my saltwater conditions. Like I said, I run 2 to 3 trips a day. These bows get washed off every day after done using them. But aluminum and salt just do not mix. Yeah. Aluminum, salt, and steel. You add steel axles in cams, it just does not work.
Yeah, all the corrosion.
So the Vaders do not punch as hard as some of your higher end bows, but the I want to say the maintenance, the lack of not having, I tune them, but I can do everything on the boat. I don't need a bow press out there or something blows off. Shorter axle bows, if people pull back and really twist or torque the string, you'd have cables coming off the cams. So with these Vader bows that I use now, the whole bow itself with a reel on it weighs 4.6 pounds. So it's a great holding bow. They're all carbon and titanium hardware. price point for, their $500 bows.
Right.
And the maintenance on them, I put good strings on them and I don't have to do anything except keep them waxed. So they're very easy, very user friendly. I can adjust the weight, draw weight down, really, real light poundage for younger kids and women and, guys that just have shoulder issues that can't pull bows back. I'm normally only running anywhere from, 27 to 35, 36 pounds anyways. So yeah, we're taking close shots and they're not deep.
Yeah. What's your guys' average depth? Like 2 to 3 foot, or?
I would say from 1.5 to 3.
Okay. Yeah, you probably can't go much shallower than that in that pontoon, can you?
Buddy, I can get out and push that thing across water. Like that thing gets skinny. People can't believe how shallow I can get that boat.
I guess with a tri-tune too, you get a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm in the midst of building a bow fishing pontoon myself. And that was one thing I was worried about, was not being able to get as shallow as I could get with my 1860 flat bottom.
Yeah, the 1860 should get it fairly good, but yeah, that I love it. I built that thing from a regular pontoon. I literally added a center tune, redid the whole cross members underneath, redid the floor, rebuilt everything that is on that boat. So it's a wild looking rig. So I love it.
Yeah, I was looking at it.
It rides like a Cadillac.
Yeah, I was looking at it on your Instagram. That's a nice boat. Mine is definitely not going to be that nice. However, I'm not taking people out guiding them or anything. I'm just looking to go out and have a good time.
Well, it's basically a picture that I just post geese on this year.
Yeah. It's I got it last summer actually for free from a lady I did some work for, and the house she bought, it was sitting in the river when she bought the house. She didn't have a title for it. She didn't have a trailer for it. She didn't know nothing about it. So I said, well, I'll take it off your hands. I'll do some work for you. And I ended up with it, and I'm redoing the whole deck right now. I put all new wood on it last summer. I got a newer 135 two-stroke for it. So hopefully it'll be done by the beginning of June so we can get a little bit of bow fishing in this year. But, I've never really went out until mid to late April, beginning of June. Going out in March here, you're just not going to do it. You won't see any fish.
I've had some look like spearing growing up around here, like in the marinas and stuff with the carp. But
you'll see a few here and there, but it ain't worth going out and spending 6, 7, 8 hours on the water trying to shoot fish to come back with 4 carp,
Right. No, that's understandable. For you, Mark, out of all the fish that you guys are going after, or I don't know, is a stingray a fish? What is a stingray?
I'll be honest with you, I can't answer that.
I don't know why I just thought of that, but I was like, what the heck is that?
They have live babies, correct?
So is it a mammal?
They do. So they do live birth.
I'm pretty sure it would be considered a mammal.
Yeah.
All right. So out of the fish, and maybe not the mammal that you guys go after, what's like the top species that your clients want?
I do more stingray trips than anything. A lot of people want the river, but the river around me is kind of very, I want to say, temperamental. It's all tide related. I fish on certain tides. So a certain wind or certain, like this moon that we're having right now, affects the tides. Mm-hmm. So if the tide doesn't do what I need it to do, it can make or break the river trips, especially once all the vegetation is up.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I kind of try and do them early just because not all the vegetation is up. But once we get all the pads and all the leaves and everything else, it just hides. It's just a place for all the fish to go. It's not impossible to have a good night in the summer, but you got more bugs to deal with, and you got a lot more vegetation for the fish to hide.
Right.
So I try and hit them early spring and get them kind of out of the way by June, that I'm only doing a handful throughout July and August once that water temperature goes real hot. Once that water temperature starts to cool down a little bit, fish will get a little bit more active. Vegetation is still, up, and it's just kind of something you got to deal with. Now this year, the Potomac, Patuxent, and the lower Chesapeake Bay has a lot of tributaries that hold, giant, lots of blue cats. That's the new fish that's invading the whole bay. The state wants them out of there. So I actually am in the process of making arrangements to travel over there for my September and possibly 1 or 2 weeks in October to run, trips over on the Potomac River. And that's a really good fishery. There's snakeheads over there. There's goldfish. There's gar. There's blue cats and carp. So, I mean, that's a great area and a great fishery. And that's kind of something that logistically, I just had to work out a few things to be able to stay and keep my boat over there. But a lot of people want to do the number shoots on catfish on the Potomac River.
Now, for us here, it's slowly getting bigger and bigger because I think I want to say it was 2 years ago, and I could be off a year. Underwater spearfishing for walleye has absolutely blown up lately. Which is it for me, even saying that, it just sounds crazy. Diving down, seeing the sturgeon or whatever, and with the clarity of water from the videos I've seen, it's hard to believe even. Do you guys do any of that by you or no?
So saltwater spearfishing is big. You can do mahi, you can do flounder, you can do tog. On the ocean side, a close friend of mine does a lot of it. Sheep's head. It's pretty crazy what we can shoot. And that's a whole other hobby that I'd love to get into. I just kind of freak out when I put the mask on and go underneath the water. And it's just a whole learning experience that I have to kind of overcome. I've attempted it, shot some really small stuff as far as shot a tog, shot a cobia. I think I shot a small stingray already and shot possibly shot at some triggerfish, but not been too successful just because I was just kind of getting my feet wet with it.
It's just a whole new world down there, obviously.
Yeah, you're no longer the apex predator. Yeah, there's shit down there that can eat you.
Right.
Yeah, my buddy has encountered sharks bigger than him while he's down there, and I was just like, man, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I would be getting out of the water and probably not going back down. I'll tell you that right now.
Do you guys ever shoot any sharks with the bow fishing charters or no?
So it's illegal.
Okay.
Sharks are very protected nowadays. I don't know why. The Atlantic region, they're, for whatever reason, very, very protected. The Gulf and the west side of the country, it seems like you can get away with a lot more. Now, why that is, I don't know, because it is a highly migratory, species,
Yeah, I was
and
gonna say,
there's permits for
like you
them.
can do
And
it.
for whatever reason, they can do them down in the Gulf. They can do them, west side, but we can't do them, here on the East Coast. Now, I do shark fish. Once you had one hooked and it swam, you reeled it in, you can put an arrow in it, but to me, that's not bow fishing.
Yeah,
no, not at all. A last question that I have, and I don't know, Brandon, if you have any more questions.
I could ask him questions all night.
We talked about it a little bit beforehand, and I just want to talk on this before I even forget. You've been guiding and chartering for, you said 15 years?
Yeah, 15 plus years, yep.
So with the social media increase and the blow up of social media, you know, like I said, we talked about it a little bit beforehand, but how like what's the difference for you? I guess what's the impact that it's had on your charter and guide service?
I'm not going to say it keeps. It's a twofold. It's a double-edged sword. I don't care for social media for certain things, and then I do like it for other things. I used to never post anything because I really didn't have to. I really didn't have to put myself out there. I was busy enough and content enough to be that. Over the years, everybody and their brother in this area, like if you look at bow fishing guides, I think Maryland has more bow fishing guides than any other state. I could be wrong, but it just seems like that. Everybody's got a 20-foot John boat and they're a guide. I feel that social media, not just with bow fishing or waterfowl hunting, but every kind of hunting, has ruined the hunting industry. It's made people that had good spots not so good anymore. I'm not saying you can't find good spots, but like certain areas have blown up because somebody's seen it online and, oh, look, now we're going to go do this. Everybody is a public land hunter. You know, me and my buddies were bow hunting. I'm 49 years old. We were public land bow hunting before it was cool. You know, and now it's, you know, if you're not hunting public land, it's just the way that the hunting industry has become because of social media. I really feel that people aren't hunting for the reasons that they should be. And I'm not saying all hunters aren't like this.
Right.
But a handful of people are hunting to get that pat on the back, to get that pile picture and say, hey, look at me, look what I can do. And I'm not saying that that's every hunter, because it wouldn't be fair to say that. But I know guys that kill consistently and put piles on the ground and never ever post a picture, not even after the season. Like, they just do it because they're hardcore into it. And then you got somebody that wants to go out there, shoot a pile, whatever, whether it be fish, ducks, deer, and everything they do, they got to broadcast it. So it's a double-edged sword. Does it get your name out there? Yes. Does it, promote you in the business? Yes. But I'd rather take, Kyle, how'd you find out about me?
Brad, one of your previous clients.
Brad was on my boat. He came back and told you about me. Right. I get more trips that way over the last 15 years than me getting on social media and pumping my chest out and saying, this is what I can do. So I'd rather have that kind of clientele, as far as like Brad telling you what a job that I did, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. I really enjoy getting guys like that on the boat and them going telling their buddies. I get told so often, man, I tell everybody about you, and it makes me feel good, I'm doing my job, versus me getting a good group of guys out taking pictures of a bunch of fish or a bunch of birds, putting them on there, and trying to advertise that way. And the other thing it does, I call them internet scouters. They're like,
e-scouters.
Oh, look, we know where he's at. This is what he's doing. So it's just, to me, again, I'm not saying that everybody's like this, but it just makes it easy for people to figure out once they start looking. All the mapping, all the stuff. I'm not saying they're not great tools. They are. But it's a double-edged sword. Very, very tricky situation as far as I'm concerned. Some people don't care. Some, they like the company. But I mean, if you guys got a good goose field and, it was public, would you want to tell everybody about it?
Right.
Hell, all of ours are private, and we still don't share the location.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I'm just saying, like, I've had really good spots being trashed because so and so told so and so, where we were fishing and where they were fishing. So, I mean, I have a speech on my boat. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm like, I want to keep the same quality of trips. So just keep this to yourself, And I pretty much, I've had people that I've told that to. They're like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then 2 weeks later, they show up with their own stuff, right where I had them. And I tell people, you're not my friend after that. Like, I'm not, like, I don't understand why you think that's okay. I mean, would you take me to your best deer spot and then tell me not to come back? And if I came back, would we still be on good terms?
Right.
I mean, it's just not good ethics. Like I said, I'm old school. And if somebody took me somewhere and said, hey, this is my hunting spot, I wouldn't even ask. If they say, hey, I'm not hunting that anymore, you want to go ahead, then I would, but I don't even ask. So that's just, and then there's so many guides now, and it's just, I see guides in other places that because they know another person was successful there. Mm-hmm. To me, that's not right. I did tread on somebody's area for sea ducks. Before I even bought my boat, my outfitter out that I bought out, I approached this gentleman. I said, hey, look, you don't know who I am. My name is Mark. My goal is to move down here. I want to start guiding over on the Chesapeake Bay and out here. I'm not asking you where to go. All I'm asking you is, where can I be to stay out of your way and not interfere with what you've done up to this point?
Right.
And there was another outfitter. It was on the waterfowl side. And, I showed him, a little bit of respect before I just showed up and said, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing, So we're close friends now. We work together. I put money on his boat. He's put money on my boat with big parties, and we stay out of each other's way, and it works out great.
It definitely goes a long way, just the communication side, like standpoint of the social media, because everybody is so hush-hush about it, and I understand it all. I mean, we've had our ups and downs, even on our private land, with people trying to down talk us or try to just start rumors with, the landowners or, whatever it may be, whether it's jealousy or I don't know. But even this year alone, we did a pretty good job on communicating with the 3 other groups around us, just to say, hey, like, you help us, you scratch our back, we scratch your back, kind of thing, and even going back to the Brad situation, how many times, the amount of times that I've heard of how bad the guide was, but on social media, he seems like he's just absolutely destroying the birds, and he can post whatever he wants, whenever he wants, whether it been a last year post or this year post, still makes him look good. There's so many fake people that are pushing like the younger generation, I feel like, out of the sport.
Right. Yes. No, I mean, it's a very helpful tool, and it is a very great tool, but at the same fact, like, I really think, it hurts the sportsman. It seems like, it comes down to greediness a little bit as well,
Mm-hmm.
So it's, like I said, if social media would get shut down tomorrow, I think I still have a good enough clientele that I would be, still stay busy. And I have some great clients. I've had the same clients come out with me every year for the last 15 years bow fishing. They're like, man, we're not missing a year. Same time next year. So, I mean, I've had some duck hunters that have come out the last 5 or 6 years. Like, they come out every year. So that's the kind of people, that I want.
That's got to be an amazing feeling for you, because obviously it tells you just alone that you're obviously doing something right.
Well, you got to make it fun, even if it's slow, even if it sucks, even if you know it's going to be iffy. Like, you got to make it fun. You got to have a good time. They're there to have a good time. I have the best office in the world. There's nobody on my boat, whether it be bow fishing or duck hunting, that doesn't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's not one person that does not want to be there at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you can't control, you know, I mean, in reality, you can't control anything out there. Besides your attitude and the way that, you know, the clients react to your attitude. You know, we've dealt with a lot of people, Brandon.
I hear all kind of horror stories. Well, at least this boat started, you know, or at least we're not standing in water up to our ankles. So.
I'll tell you what, there's some stories that we could tell you about some guides around here, which I'm hoping with the new the guide license thing going out now, it helps out with getting rid of those quote unquote fake guides, and helping the guys that are actually legit with it all.
Well, yeah, and we got a lot of guides in Maryland that they say they're guides, but they have a full-time job. Mm-hmm. Which is I'm not bad mouthing that, but there's so many people now that want a guide to say that they're a guide.
Yeah, no, we're the same way. They have one good goose hunt or mallard hunt in the field, and then all of a sudden they have, you know, next thing they're starting up a page and promoting field hunts and stuff, and it's like, do you guys even realize, like, you guys have 2 fields that might get hit once a year, and then now you're going to be taking people's money thinking that they're going to have some great hunts. And
yeah, I'm not saying these guys are going to do a bad job, but I'm just saying, like, the guys that are doing it day in, day out and have to produce day in and day out, and, you know, that's how they take care of their sole income.
Right.
You know, nowadays it seems like there's so many guides popping up that this is just like a part-time hobby gig for them, and they're doing it, you know, just to say that they guide.
Right.
So, and again, a lot of it's, you know, social media driven.
Right. No, I couldn't agree more. Like I said, I mean, we deal with a lot of that stuff, unfortunately, but just one of those things where in this time and age, you're unfortunately not going to be able to get away from it.
No, you got to put yourself out there. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and there's guys that promote themselves and do a really good job at it, and, you know, are busier than me some days because of that. And I just, again, I'm a little bit older. I'm like 10 years older. Not saying that I know older gentlemen that definitely do a better job of promoting themselves than what I do. I just don't put myself out there. Right. If my name was Marcy and I was blonde haired, you know, 5'4", weighed 120 pounds with a nice rack, I wouldn't have to worry about anything right now as far as booking trips. But I'm 5'6", I weigh 180 pounds, and I'm 49 years old. So there's not too many people that really want to book a trip with me, you know, just for my looks.
Like I said, you sell some feet pictures and you'd be all right.
Yeah.
But Brandon, you got any more questions?
Like I said, I could ask questions all night, but for time's sake, no. Maybe Mark will get you back on one of these days. You got some downtime, because the way that Brandon's looking, he could definitely be going on and on about the bow fishing aspect of it all, whether it be from the lights or just the setup alone, or just over in your area, your neck of the woods.
Well, we can do someday down the road, we can do something with just bow fishing setups and what to do, what not to do. I've done just about everything, but sounds like you all need to get with Brad and everybody head southeast and get on the boat.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brad needs to stay away from them those iced tea Long Islands or whatever the hell he was drinking on the one podcast. I don't know if you've heard that or not, but he came up for a podcast with his
partner in crime.
Yeah, his
Tanner,
brother-in-law, I guess you'll say. Tanner, and we had a little incident at a bar up here. And next thing you know, Brad's about 6 iced whatever they're called, iced tea Long Island,
Island iced tea.
Yeah, whatever it is. And yeah, the name of the podcast is how drunk can we get Brad? Or because I mean he was 2 sheets to the wind. Let me tell you, it was quite the experience. I'll tell you that much.
We got orange crushers down here. They're just as potent. So,
well, you better keep Brad away from you then too. I'll tell you that. I'm just trying to save you the headache.
Right. Sounds like
I'm definitely gonna get your contact info from Kyle because, like I said, we come down there usually once a summer to the Luray, Virginia area to visit family for a while, and it doesn't sound like you'd be too far from there.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that one's at.
So we're right.
I appreciate.
We're right on the South Fork of the Shenandoah.
Yeah, you're on the West Shore side. You're probably still a good ways away.
No, it ain't nothing but a few hours of driving.
Yeah, we're used to it.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. I appreciate the time. Is there anybody after we just got done not, promoting the social media standpoint of it all, but do you want to, just say again your social media, or any
you
sponsors?
Can find me. My waterfowl business is marylandwaterfowl.com. Pretty easy to see. I do have kind of a weak Instagram page with that. It's Maryland Waterfowl. It's Maryland_waterfowl. I think that's how I have it. And then I have a Facebook page, and then the Dusk to Dawn bow fishing Instagram. That's a little better, but still not like up to par for what it is. And then I have a website, Dusk to Dawn bow fishing, and also a Facebook page. All my rates and all my info and gallery pictures and stuff like that are on there. Pictures of the boats are on there as well.
Sounds good. Well, Mark, you hang on to the phone for a few here, and or after we get done here. But I appreciate your time. Appreciate getting to know you a little bit more, and just the East Coast bow fishing and waterfowl aspect of it all. And we'll have to set up a date for another bow fishing podcast with season really kicking into gear very soon.
Yep. A couple of weeks probably will be full bore.
Sounds good, man. Well, like I said, I appreciate you coming on, and just hang on to the phone for a little bit longer. But for everybody tuning in, I appreciate you guys. And until next week, we'll see you.